You're listening to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, where your voice matters. We're glad you're here and believe you will be too. And now, Deidre Reigel with today's guest.
This is part 3 of the 5-part series called Love in the Face of Hate, How to Navigate. And today it is my distinct privilege to have as a guest the Reverend Sharone Elizabeth, also known as the Reverend Dr. Sharone Elizabeth James, a very, very, very wonderful and very powerful woman who's joined me today. Reverend Sharone Elizabeth, welcome to my show today.
Thank you so very much, Deidre. It is my pleasure to be here.
Mine to have you as well. Let me just give our listeners a little bit of background about how Reverend Sharone and I came to meet each other. She is the pastor at a wonderful place in Sarasota called the Cosmic Center of Spiritual Light. And I had actually done my Reiki training there back in 2012 and then began to attend some services there and began to become very impressed with this woman I now know as Sharone Elizabeth. And so we formed a wonderful friendship. In fact, recently she was very kind to be the provider of space as I presented some of my Atlantis Lemurian music and, in fact, participated in that event. So, Reverend Sharone, if I may even be more proper here, let me just give our listeners a little background on you, if that's okay with you.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So Sharone Elizabeth Reverend Sharone Elizabeth is actually a native of New York City originally, and she went through 4 years of intense metaphysical and spiritual training, became ordained in June of 1989. That was the same year she moved to Florida. She was also, get this, ladies and gentlemen, the founder and president of Zanko Personal Resources and Consulting Services. It's a human resource management company in Sarasota, Florida, that contracted with various government and business organizations in Southwest Florida in the area of diversity. And I think this is so important to talk about the inclusivity of where we are today. Now, this woman is listed in Who's Who of American businesswomen today. So these are huge accomplishments that Reverend Sharone has already accomplished. She's also, since July of 2007, when she was telepathically impressed by celestial beings, she's been holding an anchoring light meditation every Monday evening without fail since July of 2007. That's all about bringing the sacred new energy light into our planet to assist Mother Earth and her beings in ascending. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can see this is a very accomplished and very amazing woman. And Reverend Sharone, I am just so thrilled for you to be here today and share time.
Thank you. And I am absolutely thrilled to share because, you know what, my story is your story. Your story is everybody's story. And what we are part of is so gargantuan, so amazing, so complex that we have to come together as a collective to share this massive information that continues to evolve. The one thing that we do know at this journey is that our path is that of love and light, and to be specific, the limitless light, because there's many different gradations of light, if you will, but it is the original limitless light, known in Hebrew as the Ein Sof Or light. And again, being very clear, we're connected to the source, or what is also known as Yod-He Vod-He in the Kabbalah or Hebrew tradition. Mm-hmm. It is El Elyon, the God of God. So we're really clear as to who we are, what we're doing, and where we're going. And it is source, which is love. And I wanted to mention something, too, because you had talked about the business aspect of it, but I just thought I'd bring in, I can't even remember now. This was before the year 2000 for sure. This would have been around 1991, actually. 1990, 1991, 92. And they had the Hudson Institute at that time. And the Hudson Institute, which I studied their information, was basically saying, look, we're moving to be a global community. So, this is back then, and that the workforce was going to change, different things were going to come because humans were going to be more integrated, that no longer are they just limited to a certain section, geographically, that it was going to become a more global community. So very interesting from the business side of things. It talks about what we would say spiritually, that it's moving into oneness, humanity.
What is wonderful about the work that you're doing is that you are bringing in your strong spirituality, which I know has been part of your life since you were a young child, and you're bringing it into the tangible world, the tangible business world, boots on the ground, day-to-day life. And when you talk about this concept of love, I did read through this wonderful interview that Natural Awakenings just did a lovely article on you. And in that article, Reverend Sharon, you spoke about love, unconditional love, and that's what Cosmic Center or Spiritual Light is about. That's what we're all about, is this idea of unconditional love. And I need to share with you that when you were talking about using the Hebrew language and talking about the light and the source, it just gave me goosebumps to think about how important it is that we are connected to source, who we really are, how much light we ourselves can hold, and to really think about the times that we're living in on this planet that are so unprecedented and so remarkable. And that's of course the thrust of our conversation tonight. We're living in a world that seems to be so full of hate, chaos, fear, uncertainty, violence,
and division.
Political division, and it's even beyond political division. So what's going on?
Okay, well, I'm so happy to share this to a wider audience. Most certainly at the Cosmic Center Spiritual Light, the people that come there, or, they tune on to Facebook to the Anchoring Light, which we now do, Facebook Live, I repeat this constantly. I would say what I have, and I'm not unique to this because everybody has it to a degree, what I call an altered state. Dreaming is an altered state. Dreaming is an altered state. Sometimes we remember our dreams more vividly than, our day-to-day activity in, our reality here. And so we are starting off, we're all multidimensional beings. Okay, so of course, everybody has certain propensity. You have the people who are the artists, the people who are the engineers, the people, who do different dynamics on their propensity. But we all have abilities that if we worked on it and it wasn't our particular propensity, we could develop it. So I want to say a precedence of that, that everybody understands this. And so coming from the premise that we are, in fact, interdimensional beings, that we have flashes of inspiration. Some of us may have dreams, and some of us will have what I call a strong intuitiveness or a sensing or feeling. There's different names you could do it, an ESP, whatever you want to say. But I like to just kind of put the word altered state. That's what works for me. And so I wanted to tell you that I had an altered state experience. I was actually going into a deep meditation, and then I flipped into this, altered state where, a long story short, I'm climbing up these rocks, and there's water coming down, and, the goal was that I was very comfortable walking through what could be perceived these slippery rocks, but my footing was very sure. I was very specific going up someplace. In fact, it was the horse with the wings. It was, what do you call that again? It was Pegasus. Pegasus. Yeah. A white Pegasus. Now, this is in my altered state. Comes like to assist me to get to the top.
Sure, Sharon, let me just ask you to pause for a moment. And this is a note to the editor. I think it's my phone that somebody's calling in on. So I'm going to put this will be an edit point for Deborah, and make note of that. And so in just a moment, I'll ask you to start over again, talking about your dream and Pegasus. We'll pick up with the word Pegasus and trust that to all work out. So let me count us back in, Deborah. This note is for Deborah, of course, by going 3, 2, 1.
So a white Pegasus appears, in this altered state, and it assists me to go to the very top. When I go to the top, it is sort of like a temple in the air. That's how I could describe it. But as I look, I see like a diamond shape in the distance, and within it was the form of a woman. I remember this so clearly, so specifically. And to me, it was, and it could be the archetype of the divine feminine in whichever form that's expressed. But for me and my experience, my learning and my teaching, I perceive this to be who I would say the Divine Mother or Mother Mary. That's who I thought this to be. And during this experience, clearly telepathic, and if I have a particular propensity towards a psychic ability, I would say it would be more telepathic. Not exclusively, but it more tends to be telepathic. That's how the channeling of the anchoring light comes in. It's more telepathic. And thank goodness, not telepathic with other humans. Thank goodness I'd never get out of bed. But anyway, telepathic with the higher realms of light. So this was the message. And this is so important because it came up a second time. So this was in 2010. This is 8 years ago. And what the Divine Mother said, she said, I need somebody. I need the light workers. I need the star-seated ones. I need the wanderers, okay? I need somebody to hold the polarities in balance. And what she said was the impression came that as we move forward, which is now describing this time, she said, as we move forward, the idea was that there was going to be more polarity swings. Now, in the Hermetic principles, it talks about the law of polarity, okay? And so ideally, on the furthest end of a energetic, if you will, it is the extreme of the same energetic. It's just it's at opposing poles. The idea is to come into the middle. So her message was, she said, keep the polarities in balance, non-judgment, unconditional love. That's how you're going to get through this period of time. And I have been sharing this because, my gosh, if the Divine Mother says, say this, I had it on the back of our Sunday service, when I did the gathering of light workers for years and years. It's on the back on there, but that's an important message. So what I would say to individuals, yes, we are in the 3D world. We're part of it, and all of us have the right to, have our opinions and do what we feel is best for us to do. However, I cannot get involved, like say, discussions or really like emails and things like that. Like, for example, male, female, smoker, non-smoker, Republican, Democrat. I cannot engage in the polarity swings because another insight came in fairly recently, and I'll share what that is. Fairly recently, and I would say it's within the year. Maybe it's 8 months ago now or 9 months ago. And again, in an altered state, some amazing guide is showing me our planet, our beautiful blue pearl. And the impression was what's going on with the human kingdom. And the impression came in very clearly. I saw a translucent tube, if you can imagine a translucent tube. And this translucent tube was just swaying back and forth, like the right and the left. It wasn't steady. It was just going back and forth, almost like one of those lava lamps, but horizontal, if you can imagine, is just going back and forth. Now, the idea behind this is that It's almost like the goal was for it to be steady so there could be a vertical rise. But it couldn't go vertical because it was swaying back and forth horizontally. Anyway, the concept behind this was that humans are being manipulated through the emotional body, being very manipulated, in addition to thoughts and things that the mental plane, but the passion is coming from the emotional level. And then I was impressed with the fact that it's a triggering of the most fundamental part of our brain, which is the reptilian brain. It's the survival. And then what came again after that was that seed thought of that. We way went past that. We've evolved way beyond that now, that we can, come together as a humanity, but it was not happening for the masses of the people, or sometimes what I call the sheeple, those that are not quite awake yet, and get caught up in this drama. And that's exactly the purpose, is to distract you. Now, energy is energy. We're going to move forward, and we are going to, at some point in time, hit that goal of our enlightenment, which is that love and the balance of the polarities and the middle path and all of that. However, the ride, and this was years ago when I was very young, they said you can go through door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3. The experience to get there is going to be the human collective. Is it going to be really bumpy? Okay, so for example, I'm very happy to report that there were certain prophecies that were said long time ago, decades or, 1,000 years ago, that this certain things are going to happen. That doesn't have to happen if the trajectory of humans continue the path they're doing. Yes, that's the outcome. But I would say because there's so many light workers of people awakening and are not getting caught up in the drama, not participating in the emotional polarity split, but keeping that middle thing, holding love, a lot of those prophecies have not happened. We would have had World War III a long time ago. They've been fighting at the top of that to happen. So I'm saying all of this to say to the audience, I can't stress how important it is that you do not engage in this drama because it's purposeful. What we have to do is to remember that we are powerful, and I do mean powerful co-creators. So when you watch the TV and you're seeing a horrible scene, of people just destitute and, war-torn and all of that, if you are passive, that's going to continually be impressed into your mind and into your emotions, and it's like then you feel helpless and hopeless. No. No. It's the reverse, and you have to have the energy to know this. You have to be aware. So what I do when I see these things, remember the Ghostbuster little symbol? It was the zero with the slash. I had another author state regarding that. That's another topic. But for the purposes of what we're saying here, that's when I say, no, I'm not accepting that. I'm not accepting that reality, and I begin to visualize and use my power of visualization to see that landscape green and people happy, and there's, growth, and there's things going on. We have been programmed to not be aware of how powerful we are. And, yes, there is, I would say, it's coming down to, and it's a much larger story, than us. We're just part of a much bigger story. And in all cultures, they do speak of this, something bigger. But it is literally now where humans are going to make the decision as to what they're going to put their intention and energy into. Are you going to be sheeple and allow things to just happen? Because Jesus, the Christ, has said that we are in the mixture. He talks about this. There is light and dark. And just like that I believe it's a Native American, proverb or story, is two wolves, and it depends which one you feed. We have to not get sucked in because, this is nothing new. This has been going on for millennia. This is just a new cycle of stuff. If you go back into the history, and I'm talking not caveman, because I've traveled around the planet to look at sacred sites, and I can promise you, no caveman built these temples. Something happened in an advanced civilization. We think we're it. You go back and see, there's nothing that the Egyptians that we have, the Egyptians didn't have. There's nothing.
Oh, yes,
okay,
that's quite right.
The Mayans, all the way back, been there, done that, so it's just another cycle. So the cycle is now, are we going to fall into the entropy, which is what has happened? The entropy is those energies that are there to tear things down, or are we going to tap in as a collective individually and collectively to the centropy, which is to pull things up, and that's called the ascension. But there's lots of traps out there. If we just had what I think is so wonderful with the technology, which is the age of Aquarius that can be used for good or bad, anything, we're the ones that have the choice. But those global prayers through the internet, humanity coming together to say, wait a minute, this is not right. We have the technology or people coming together in groups now, that sort of thing. But important that you don't react. Mastery is action, not reaction. So you can walk into an environment that's chaotic, and with your spiritual mastery, you change the environment as opposed to the environment changing you.
Absolutely.
Yep.
These are. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Yeah, and I was just going to say it requires divine discernment. You have to use, of course, discernment and your own intelligence and your intuitiveness. You know the audience that you're going to be, in, and you can just smile. And you know what? No matter your personal feelings, and a lot of times it's so disappointing, and you just see people just do these horrendous things and so forth. And I just want to tell you, how do you protect yourself? How do you protect? You stay focused on light and love. You stay focused on it. Because when you fall into, remember the 7 deadly sins, I was like, man, is that really real? Well, there's something to it. There definitely is. And it is the animal. We are divine beings entrapped in animal bodies. Okay, this is when you start to dissect this and look at it. And, whatever the bigger, grander cosmic story is, and there's many, many, creation stories that say pretty much the same thing. But let's just suffice to say that we live in a world of duality, and there's light and dark. And the whole concept where you had avatars of light that would come into the planet, like Jesus the Christ, like the Buddha, like Shiva, like others, so many others, Zoroastrianism, that they come in and say, look, humans, look. This world is in Hindu called Maya. This is the illusion. We come into this world, and we come into a world of forgetfulness. We don't remember who we are and our cosmic lineage. We just don't. Now, there are newer souls, not newer souls, but souls coming in now, little kids that are retaining their cosmic memory. But that's just a new wave coming in. Why is that wave coming in? Because the light workers ahead of them have been holding the light. Like, for example, I would say, I always think of the Tibetan. They have their prayer wheels. And when I was growing up and not awake yet, I had a sense, but I didn't know for sure, what's really going on. Why do they need to say the whales, I don't get it. Well, thank God they were praying nonstop. Okay, they didn't stop. They kept on praying and praying that others would awaken, and I did awake, and that's why that anchoring light takes place every Monday without fail. Now, one of the things that just happened, I know the Ascended Masters have said use the tools of Aquarius, and even though a bit resistant, to the new technology, it is a tool that can be used for great good. So,
yes,
as you know, I'm in Nashville right now, us having this amazing interview, using technology that I can Skype in to the anchoring light every Monday, because that's a mandate. It happens every Monday, and it's not just me. It's who shows up. It's the collective. And the other thing I want to mention out there, too, I would say to every light worker, every awakening being out there, it's no longer the way, with the exception of the few who are called to do that. But I would say for the most of us, being by ourselves, meditating by ourselves, praying by ourselves, yes, that's okay to do your spiritual practice, but it's important we come together as a group. So whether you find a group in your locality, or now you could tap into the internet, and there's all these groups, it's important we come together as a collective, because when we come together as a collective, the results are more impactful for each person versus someone doing it individually. So that's why you have various groups or prayer groups or meditation groups or, various healing modalities that are out there. It's interchanging with others.
Absolutely. This I think is very important for us to do. We're being confronted with so much evil, so much darkness, and the only way for us to band together is to band together. And we have, as you say, the technology now to do this and become part of an active collective. And I will share with you, there are so many dots connecting now for all of us, globally, all of us connecting, finding each other and aggregating our energies. You're so correct about this, in my opinion.
And there's something called the metamorphic field. And, what is that? And it has to do with the 51st monkey concept. And it's like as you get more people coming together, it actually begins to create a thought form. Now, what's going on the planet? What we're dealing with right now, Deidre, is very ancient. It's rearing its ugly head again. Right? And unfortunately, just as how we, can see that there's a better way, a higher world version, for our planet, there are those, it comes down to two things, love affair or service to self or service to others. Okay? Now, let me tell you what's out there, because I had a personal encounter with this, right? Personal encounter. And so, there are people out there that if they have certain propensities, you have those groups out there that look for talent. Now, you can get that talent, to work positive or not. Now, there is, some people may know it as Illuminati or the powers that be. There's different names to go for it. But pretty much, let's just say it's service to self. They're like, you know what, we're in charge. We like things the way they are, and they're getting some benefit for things to keep the way it is. That's it. We don't want to change. We don't want the ascension. And there's many in the Gnostic Gospels that go deep into this. So somebody says, wow, I'd really like to know this. Well, I would recommend that you start getting involved with the Gnostic Gospels. Why were those taken out? Why did they have to hide the Nag Hammadi, the Dead Sea Scrolls, that we don't get it till 2,000 years later? because there are those things that don't want this information out. But now, the light of day, the prayers of, those Christians that had to hide in caves, those people who went to temple, those people who, and the Hindus, the whatever path, it doesn't matter what path you're on, the path is towards unconditional love. That's it. So the cosmic center, we only have one dogma, and that's unconditional love, period. That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's all. No dogma.
That's why it's so refreshing there. Reverend Sharon, you've actually answered so many of the questions that I had wanted to ask you. You've disseminated this just wonderful amount of information. And, for those listening, this is so important to really grasp the importance of what's going on our planet. It is not business as usual anymore. It's not the way it was even 10 years ago. We are down to critical mass here. It's going to be one with, Jesus said it, separating the wheat from the chaff. It's time. For the Christians, it's the book of Revelation. This is it. We're living it, and we have to make a choice. We have to make a stand. And for those of us who are aware of what's going on, I think your words of counsel of holding the balance, staying focused, not playing into the drama. And I know last night you and I shared some brief conversation just ahead of today's interview, and it was lovely to hear you say those things last night, and it's lovely to hear you repeat them today, because we are all of us challenged minute to minute, day to day, week to week, month to month, in our personal lives with things that are sometimes cause me to just shake my head and say, really? Oh, really? Oh, wow, I just saw that. So this is just such an important conversation.
Well, I want to say one other very important thing in the same thing, and this has come up recently, and I believe in the article I talked about, it's so important for us to be aware of this, because even the best of us can be disheartened when you see what's going on. It's like, all right, so there's two things I have to share real quick before it slips from my mind. So one is, as you recall, Jesus said, we are in the world but not of it.
Yes.
That is so important to know. So I have good news. Okay. First of all, we cannot compare ourselves to the world. So I think on Facebook, a friend of mine, and, we do this work, and it's very disheartening. And, you cannot compare yourself as light workers, okay, to the regular world. There's nothing. I can't go, I'm a reverend. I went to Spiritual Science Center of New York. It was not a school of divinity because there's no precedent for it. We are the new precedent. We are the new normal, okay? So the old paradigm, we can't go by the old paradigm. We are creating the new paradigm. We are the ones that we are waiting for. So it's so important. You can't say, oh, well, I'm so different. All of us have walked that path where we are an environment where we are the minority, okay? All of us have. So we know what that's like when nobody understands us, nobody gets us. It doesn't matter as long as you are authentic and genuine in yourself. Because I always say, Esri umpalti atar yod he vod he. And why I say certain things in Hebrew is that Hebrew, along with 4 other languages, or what we would call light languages. They're like the higher vibration language on the planet. There's 5 of them. It's Hebrew, it's Sanskrit, it's Egyptian, it's Chinese, and it's Tibetan. Okay, so there's 5. So for the Western mind, it's just easier to do the Hebrew, but not to say that the others don't work. So this falls under what is known the names of God, okay, or you may call it a mantra, but it's aligning yourself to what? Sound, okay, and in Genesis it says, and then there was the word, sound is a creational process. So this is information. That's why your thoughts and your words are so important. That's why you have to realize how powerful you are as a co-creator. And the other part of that, the illusion, we have the Open Heart Divine Healing Service every first Sunday, and we have a couple of precedents on how this healing works. One, you have to forgive everything and everybody. That's the foundation stone. Forgive, 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 forgive. Doesn't matter, forgive. But the biggest illusion is that somehow people think they're not worthy, that they are less than. They're not worthy to be happy or healed or anything like that. I would say that is the biggest illusion that I see in the world and when I speak with people. Yes. And this is what we have to remember, that we hold the spark of the divine. Just that alone, gives you a path to go forward. Yes, are we in a world of corruption? Are we perfect? No, we're not. But you carry that divine spark, and that's your ticket out. That's your ticket towards what is known as the Atman Kadman, the divine human. It's in you already. You either going to fan the flames of that, or it's going to get covered over, but it is there. So knowing that, you begin to become awake. You begin to say, wait a minute, I'm going to stay in my power, and people don't agree with me. That's okay, but I must be, number one, my authentic self. I must be. You are unique, and the divine is banking on you to be who you are. They're like, please, can you just be who you are and not get programmed? Be your authentic self. And then you realize, it takes courage. I know it took courage for you, it took courage for me to be my authentic self and say, yeah, this is my truth. And now at my age, do you think I care what people think of me? I really don't. I have more freedom. Maybe in my 20s and 30s, I'd be more like, I don't know if I could do this, but now I don't care. But then when you tap into that authenticity, you begin to say, wow, there's another level of communication. There's another level of understanding. There's another level of guidance coming through. And in that article, that's what I talked about. When you start tuning into that, that is what's going to help you to meander through all the chaos and the corruption and the back and forth. You stay connected to that. Then you become a light. And then people start, hey, wait a minute, that person looks joyful even in the midst of, of chaos. That person seems to be centered even though everybody else is freaking. What are they doing? They're tapping into something higher, brighter, and greater. So in the world and not of it. Only other thing I want to share, because, I could go on nonstop, so you have to tell me when to stop. It just starts to flow. But it's such important information. So fairly recently, it's like you look, yes, we're in the middle of this awful, dynamic that's taking place. It's just we cringe at it because it's so foreign. It's so foreign to us. Like, oh my God. But we still have to be very strong. And so in one of my moments of saying, oh, my gosh, what's really going on, and I got this amazing, loving insight. And the more you connect on this higher level, the more it gets anchored. It's there for you. That's when the divine synchronicities come in. That's when you call for divine innovation. Boom, 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 boom. So even, I may be a target like you because we hold a lot of light. I'm like, are you kidding me? Excuse me. Do you know who my crew is? Okay, excuse me. I don't think so. So you just keep your armor so bright, it's like, don't even try it, But this is some good news. I do have good news. So
yeah, very good news. Years ago, when I was first doing Bible study and enjoying the experience of being a born again Christian, and the charismatic movement was so popular at the time, and I just cherished that experience. I think we all do. I remember there was I think an itinerant preacher who came to give a class one night, and we were talking about the very same thing, that we fight against principalities and darkness that we can't see with our tangible physical eyes. And he said, listen, folks, don't worry. We win. I've read the back of the book. We win. And it's stuck with me all these years when I'm confronted with evil in the microcosm and the macrocosm.
Yes.
We win, and this was why Reverend Sharon, I was so eager to have you on this show. Because the show, of course, is about hope and healing. I think we all need that now, and you have given such wonderful advice, insights, and supportive comments on how we navigate and hold the light for ourselves and others. And others as well, service to others. Just want to give our listeners a couple of websites here to consider researching. The first would be for the Cosmic Center of Spiritual Light.
Yes. I would like to share that just real quick. The good news is that in the unmanifested realm, these thought forms, it is beautiful, I understand. So what I'm here to say is that all those prayers, trying to be the best that you can be, trying to hold love in your heart, try to be the light, it is creating the most magnificent thought form of the higher world vision of the planet. It just hasn't manifested into this dynamic yet, but it is a work in progress. So no matter what, we must show up. So, for example, the Cosmic Center, which you could go to www.cosmiccenterofspirituallight.com or www.ccosl.com, and you will see we're going to have December 21st, the winter solstice. These are important times of gathering of light workers, so important, because there are other celestial things working in where more energies come through, and we can bring this energy and apply it in the higher world vision, because I can assure you there are those who will take the energy and not do that. It is important for light workers to show up. And I just wanted to tell you that we have something for everybody at the Cosmic Center. And we have a Facebook page, Cosmic Center Spiritual Light, Facebook page, and also Meetup. We have a Meetup page as well, too. And if you go to our website, again, cosmiccenterspirituallight.com or ccosl.com, you can get our newsletter. We have people that come from around the world. So just real quick, the idea of cosmic came in years ago. This is before anybody was using cosmic. This is where you have to be brave. This is where you have to be your authentic self. And I really had to kind of fight. I said, no, it got to be cosmic. I mean, he said, we'll put it at the end. I said, no, it got to be first. It has to be cosmic. Well, it was a beacon. It was a beacon. It was like a code for the next evolution, where we bring people from around the world. We just had Dr. Predep from the Himalayas. This man is amazing. He can sprint up the mountain, okay? He does tremendous healing. Bart Smythe is coming in December. He lives in Switzerland. He is a modern-day shaman. He has his amazing story. I refer people to him all the time, that when people say, I don't know what's going on, I said, you need to see Bart. We have William Meeder coming in January. William Meeder has taken the gargantuan work of Theosophy. That's Madame Blavatsky, that is the whole movement, Alice Bailey, that work, and has put it in a simplified form that people can understand. William Meeder travels around the world. And we have everything coming up January, from Feng Shui to January 1st. We will do our regular mantras, for abundance and the removal of obstacles. Dr. Dream is coming in a couple of weeks. So we have a lot going on. So I would encourage everybody. We do record a lot of things and put it on Facebook. Just go to our website again, www.cosmiccenterofspirituallight.com or ccosl.com, or our Facebook page or Meetup page. And I also want to mention we have the Divine Chapel of Love. That just happened. Yes.
That website is so beautiful. And what's going on there is so important. Another
that
adjunct,
was from the Ascended Masters, Deidre. They said the time of the divine unions. This is now the time of divine unions. Mm-hmm. So divine union meaning not just necessarily a couple, but the divine union within yourself, what Jesus called the bride and the bridegroom, what the Taoists say the yin and the yang. Clearly, our planet is out of balance. This is now the balancing of that. So today, as you know, is 11/11.
11,
very
yes.
important day. And so there is ceremony as we speak taking place at the cosmic center to anchor these energies of divine union. You have to be balanced within yourself before you can do everything. You have to anchor that light within yourself before you can do everything. So it's a continual work in progress to work on yourself, to be a vessel of light and to hold more light to the world.
And a genuine privilege, not just a responsibility, but a privilege as well. I think the Divine Chapel of Light has been it's taken off like wildfire, so to speak,
yes.
because there has been such a need for it, and it is, again, about balancing masculine and feminine, which will be, by the way, a little heads up for our listeners, will be the next 5-part series I will do is on balancing masculine and feminine. And Reverend Sharon, you may want to join us for that one as well, because it's a big ticket item right now for all of us.
Yes, it.
Go ahead.
I just want to mention really quick that people, of course, come in there to get married or renewal of vows or that sort of thing at Divine Chapel. But I want to tell you that it was completely orchestrated by the higher realms of light. The Ascended Masters asked for this. When people walk in, they gasp because it's an energetic. It's the silver ray of divine union. So whoever has anything, whether it's a marriage or a baptism or whatever, in there, there's this overlighting that takes place in this chapel. It's very special. It is very, 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 very special. Just wanted to mention that.
A million praises to you, Reverend Sharon. A million praises to you from my heart, because you have all of your life stood out on the edge when there may have been really no one standing with you. You've had the courage to not just be a pioneer, but to be a trailblazer. And I really want to take a moment at the end of our interview and salute you for being that woman who stood up and said, as it speaks in Isaiah, send me, I'll go. And you have gone. And look at what you've created. Look at what has come behind you. Look at what foundation you're setting for the future. Just take a moment and really appreciate yourself. And I'd like to give that space in this interview for you to just pause and say, wow, this has been a remarkable life. Thank you for your service to the planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to thank you again for taking your time. I know you're up in Tennessee for almost a month on assignment. I want to thank you for taking time on 11/11 out of your day to spend, almost an hour with me chit-chatting about things that I know we could all go on for such a long time. I love your passion. I love your enthusiasm. I love who you are, what you stand for, what you're doing. Praises to you, Reverend Sharone Elizabeth. Praises.
Thank you, Deidre, and you and all light workers who signed up to say, you know what, I'm here and I'm going to complete the job. I'm going to complete the mission.
Run the race, stay in the race, finish the race, finish it strong. Amen.
Yes.
This has been delightful, and for our listeners, I want you to know I will be having Sharone Elizabeth back very soon. In the meantime, Sharone Elizabeth, let me wish you a wonderful time in Tennessee. And
thank you.
Wish all of our listeners a wonderful blessing. Thank you again, and we'll be talking at you soon. Blessings upon blessings. Bye-bye now.
Thank you so much. God bless. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the show and host. This podcast and its content are not intended to diagnose or treat any medical or mental condition or substitute for proper professional care in this regard. You've been listening to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, where your voice matters. We hope you have enjoyed this podcast and found inspiration for your own life. If you would like to be a guest on this show, please contact us at drhoperadio@gmail.com. That's drhoperadio@gmail.com. I'm Oliver Dill on behalf of all of us here at the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, wishing you a day full of joy and goodness.